Hello, all my JUKI friends. My name is Alba, and welcome back to my sewing studio. Today, we're going to be working on back to school, but as I was thinking about this project, I'm going to explain how anyone could use this. So, what we are making is a pencil accessory holder for a 3-ring binder. So I will explain the items that we will be using for this. We have 2 pieces of fabric. One is 11 by 9, one is 11 by 13. We are going to be doing some French seams, so we don't need to interface or line this unless you feel you'd like to. The other thing we will be using is a 24-inch nylon zipper. Now, I do want a nylon zipper in the center so that we could sew over this. And the reason I have this so long, even though my zipper is going to be going in that 11-inch area, is we are using the leftover zippers to make the tabs that will put this in the 3-ring binder. So we will have that 24-inch zipper, and the zipper will be exposed, so match your colors accordingly. And the other thing I suggest having is either a piece of paper that goes in a 3-ring binder, or I got a pocket folder, just so that you have the placement of where the tab should go for the rings. So that's why we're using that. Now, I'm going to come over to the machine, and today we're using the DX4000, but I will be going over tips so that you could do this on any machine. Now, the first thing we will be doing is putting in the zipper. Now, for any of you who have the TL series machines, or you have a narrow foot like this one, you can use this one throughout the whole project. Some of you may not have that foot with your machines, but you do have a zipper foot that looks something like this. So I'm going to be doing one side of the zipper with a straight stitch foot and one side of the zipper with a zipper foot so that you could see both ways of installing that. For all of the other sewing, I will be using the standard foot that comes on the machine, and I will be moving my needle position. For anyone on a straight stitch machine, if you guide your fabric to the edge of your narrow foot, you will be all set to do this. So at my machine, the first thing I am doing is removing my foot, and the first side of the zipper I will be doing with my narrow straight stitch foot. I am going to get my zipper and one of the 2 pieces of fabric. I am using the smaller of the 2, and this is the front of my bag. And I'm going to give you a little bit of what this will look like. This tab will come over, the zipper will be exposed, and we will have 3 tabs made out of the leftover zipper that will go in your 3-ring binder. Now, I said this was for pencils and pens and accessories for back to school. But if you've ever taken any of my classes or workshop, I always recommend, and I get asked a lot, how do I master my machine? And I recommend getting a 3-ring binder and either printing an extra manual or using your manual and going section by section, one a day, and writing down notes and adding notes in this 3-ring binder. And as you do this, you will really master your machine and know all of your functions. This would be great to put in your seam ripper, your hand sewing needle, your little sewing supplies for that. Now, we're starting out with our small piece of fabric, and the zipper, where the pull is that you open and close it, this needs to be facing to the right side of your fabric. So right side to right side, and I'm going to extend my zipper back a few inches so that when I put my foot down and I'm sewing on my fabric, my zipper pull is not in my way. Now I am on a straight stitch appropriate for this foot. I am on the default stitch length of 2.4. And I am going to be sewing from the edge of my fabric to the edge of my fabric and sewing my zipper in place. Now, I am not sewing right up against the teeth. I am sewing halfway down the center of the tape, and I will show that momentarily. Now, as I'm sewing, I'm going to show you my seam. I'm sewing pretty close to the edge because I do want the zipper to be exposed and a decorative touch. So for my narrow foot, I am lining up right to the edge of the fabric, and I'm coming right to the end and stopping, and I'm cutting. So I'm going to show you on the back side and on the front side. I'm pretty close to the edge of my zipper. Now I am going to pull that zipper up. I am going to give this a finger press. You can do this with your iron. Perfect. Now we're going to sew the opposite side, and I'm going to show that with the zipper foot. So I am attaching a zipper foot. And this zipper foot has a right and left side. And again, I'm getting my right side of my zipper and my right side of my fabric, and I'm lining that up right to the edge of my zipper, and I'm going to turn that around so that you see that I have the zipper facing up and my other fabric right behind it. You will want to sew with the zipper facing up. It just makes it easier to see. And I'm lining up the edge of my foot with the zipper teeth. But on my machine, I am going to move my needle just ever so slightly, and I'm lowering to see that so that I am as far to the left as I can be without hitting into my foot. And I am moving that needle position over, and as I'm dropping, I want to go as far into that left groove as I can. And that will get me away from the teeth of the zipper and closer to the edge. And I am sewing that seam all the way to the end like I have on the other side. And I just realized my stitch length, for some reason, got made very tiny. There we go. So I'm still on that default stitch length of 2.4, and I'm just lining up my fabrics with my zipper. If you would like to pin these or clip them, please do so. So on the edge of my zipper foot, I'm lining up my zipper and my fabric. And again, I've moved my needle position. And I'm going all the way to the end of the fabric and cutting. And we're going to give that another press. And I'm using a canvas fabric, so it takes to a finger press really, really nicely. Now we're going to go to our standard foot because we're going to be doing a decorative stitch. Now, if you have a straight stitch only, what you will be doing in place of this decorative stitch is just top stitching the zipper in place. Now, to get my decorative stitching to fall in the correct position, with that opening of the foot, I am lining up this edge right inside the window of that foot. And I am going to pick a decorative stitch of my choice. And I am going into one of the applique stitches. And I am doing a feathered, it almost looks like chicken feet, but you can use any stitch. And my needle just came unthreaded, so I am going to thread up that needle and be with you shortly. As you can see, I've threaded my needle and I've continued doing that decorative stitch around the zipper on both sides. And I'm just nearing my ending point, and I will show you what that looks like. Now, the decorative stitch does two things. It keeps that edge of the fabric from fraying and just gives it a really pretty touch. So I'm at the edge of my fabric and I will pull that out of my machine. And as you can see, it just gives it just a pretty touch. Now I want to take care of my zipper end, and I will be removing that excess zipper. But before I do, I want to return to a straight stitch, center needle position, and I just want to do stitching going back and forth 3 to 4 times right at about 1/8 of an inch from the edge. And I want to slow down my machine when I do this. I am just securing my zipper so that it does not come undone as we construct this bag. So I've secured my zipper, and now I will be cutting that edge of zipper off. We will now be sewing the sides of the bag, and we're leaving the end of the bag unsewn. And the first thing we want to do when we are sewing our bag together is we want to unzipper that zipper till about the halfway point. And what I will be doing is either you can stitch across the zipper like I did at the end, or you can place a piece of tape to hold that together. I just find it easier to sew that zipper closed, holding it together right along that edge of fabric or 1/8 of an inch. And again, going backwards, back tacking, and giving it about 3 times going over that area. And what this does is it keeps my zipper in place as I'm sewing. And I've gotten rid of those tabs and any threads that are in the way. So your bag should look like this. So even with the zipper open, it holds in place at the end. Now, if you have a directional fabric like I do, You just want to pay attention because a little bit of that fabric will be showing to make sure you're in the correct direction. Now, you may be looking at this going, but Alba, the wrong sides are together. And I will be doing a French or enclosed seam. Now, if you don't like doing this, you can also use your serger to clean this up. But I realize that not everyone has a serger, so I give alternatives. I am with my standard foot on my machine, which is a wider foot. If you are on a machine that has that narrow, you can use the narrow foot and just go to the edge of the fabric. What I will be doing is I will move my needle position over all the way to needle position number 7, which means my needle is going all the way over to the right-hand side, giving me a narrow seam. And I will be sewing up both sides with the wrong sides together or pretty sides of fabric out. And I want to do this on both sides. This will give me an approximate 3/8 seam allowance. And there is no need to back tack on this because we will be doing another seam on this. I will now go to that opposite side and same thing. I am going my fabric right to the edge of the foot, my needle all the way to the right, giving me a nice narrow seam allowance. Going slow enough to go over that zipper so that I am not breaking my needle. Perfect. So both sides have been done, and now we're going to work on that bottom. And for the bottom, I am going to go to that center needle position. Because I want a wider seam allowance when I turn this inside out and encase all of the seams. And before I do that, we need to position our tabs. So we have our needle position corrected. And as you can see with that leftover, I have broken that open and I now have 2 pieces. And I am going to do 3 tabs out of this. So I am going to do a loop. And I want that loop to be at least 1 inch high. So I am cutting about 4 inches of tab. So you should be able to get 4 tabs out of that leftover zipper pull. So if you make a mistake, you have an extra piece. And I will be bringing this up to my machine so that you could see this. I am going to make that loop, and I want to position this to correspond with where those 3 holes are on my piece, and I am going to tack them in place. So I've positioned my first one, I'm holding it, I'm tacking it in place about 1/8 of an inch. And I'm going to do this for all 3 of my tabs. And this will be where we connect this to the 3-ring binder. Now I've stitched all 3 tabs in place. You could clip these or pin these. And now what I will be doing is my seam across the bottom. And I'm going to do with center needle position, just making sure that I grab those tabs and they are in this seam. Now, we left our zipper open, and we did that so that we could turn inside out. And what we will be doing now is turning our pocket inside out, getting each one of the corners poked nicely. And I want to leave the zipper at least halfway open. And you may want to give this a nice quick press. I am going to do a finger press. Just getting your seams nice and flat. Now, a 1/4 inch seam allowance is fine on this. What I am doing is I am using my center needle position and I'm lining up my fabric to the edge of the foot, giving me a generous seam allowance from a 1/4 inch. And as I get to my zipper where it's opened, I am just making sure that my zipper is held close. You may want to tape that or pin that. And now at the beginning and end of each seam, we will be back tacking. And what that simply means is I'm going backwards, and I actually do so off of the fabric. And I'm going to do that on my zipper as well, because that will get a lot of stress. And I'm just doing all 3 seams, my 2 side seams and my bottom, this same way. And when I reach the bottom, I am going to back tack to strengthen that seam. Now I'm at my bottom seam, and this is where the tabs are. So you want to just slow down your machine and go a little bit slower because you're going over a lot more bulk. And I'm keeping that nice and even as we're sewing. But those zipper pulls as my tabs for my 3-ring binder are going to look so cute. And I am back tacking at the end. And I'm now at my final seam. And whenever you're doing French seams, you always want your first seam narrower than when you turn it inside out, so that you encase all of your raw edges and that doesn't poke through. Now I've back tacked over my zipper and I'm back tacking again at the end of the seam. And now what we have is the inside of our pouch is sealed at the zipper with the decorative stitch, and my seams are completely encased, giving it a nice finished edge. And I'm just turning this inside out. And of course, at home, you will want to press and trim any threads that you need to. And I'm going to poke those corners to get that nice sharp edge. But how cute is that to go in your binder? And look at that. The tabs are going to go in the rings of your 3-ring binder, and you will have a zippered protected pouch for all of your accessories. So I'm going to put all of these in there, and just a fun, quick, easy way to do that. And it will stick out just a little bit, giving you that reminder that that pouch is in there. So whether you're using this to master your machine or as a back to school for that child or even for yourself, I hope you enjoyed this project. Please make sure to leave your comments and share this video with all your friends. Until next time, bye-bye.